So the thing that I've been talking about for months and months and months is starting to happen. This isn't necessarily directly from the Trump campaign, but it certainly benefits the Trump campaign to gum up the works of the election, to call into question the results of the election. And they're doing it in advance. Pro-Trump, anti-democracy idiots in Georgia who are on the Georgia election board, they have voted to gum up the works. Here's the headline from the Washington Post. Pro-Trump Georgia election board votes to require hand counts of ballots. Critics plan to sue, saying the new requirement would almost certainly lead to errors and could disrupt the process of certifying the vote in a crucial battleground state. This is exactly why they're doing that. They're saying it's for voter security to make sure everything runs right. But everything runs right. Everything ran right. There hasn't been an election where there were inappropriate ballots cast in any numbers at all that would influence the outcome of the election. They have found through study after study after study of data analysis that we're talking about over the course of billions of votes that a mere handful have been fraudulently cast. And then when you take into account that every time something happens relative to voter fraud, not election fraud like I believe this is, but voter fraud on an individual level, it's a Trump supporter. All of the convictions from Texas and all over the country that you hear about are Trump supporters who have been whipped up into a frenzy believing their votes will be cast or be stolen, so they have to counterbalance it by committing fraud. And they've been prosecuted for that. Here's the rest of the article. The Georgia Election Board approved a rule Friday requiring counties in the critical presidential battleground to hand count the total number of ballots this year, potentially upending the November election by delaying the reporting of results. The move was spearheaded by a pro-Trump majority that has enacted a series of changes to the state's election rules in recent weeks and approved the hand count requirement despite a string of public commenters who begged board members not to. Critics included democracy advocates who accused the board of intentionally injecting chaos and uncertainty into the presidential contest, as well as election supervisors and poll workers who said hand counts would take too long, cost money, and almost certainly produce counting errors. The Office of the Republican State Attorney General, which is responsible for advising the board, wrote in an opinion that the change was unlawful. So Republicans are saying it's bad, but it's pro-Trump psychopaths who are committed to the prospect of anti-democracy. They got this through. Now, remember, in the 2020 election during COVID, they were saying that when certain states that have a part of the law that they're not even allowed to start counting the ballots until the next day or until the polls close, and that caused a delay. And that's when Donald Trump started the lie, the conspiracy theory, that all of a sudden, all these massive dumps, the dumps came in, dumps of votes, lots of dumps, big giant dumps.
Congratulations, sir. You just won the election. It was 10 o'clock, and you looked at the numbers, and I'm sure you felt that way. This election was over, and then they did dumps. They call them dumps, big, massive dumps in Michigan and Pennsylvania and all over.
You know, Donald Trump talking about dumps. That's what he was talking about, that none of these votes were being counted, and then all of a sudden they were. Those were absentee ballots that, according to state laws across different states, they can be counted at different hours. But he turned it into a conspiracy that MAGA world ran away with. The board voted 3-2 to approve the measure, which would require the hand count in addition to the customary machine count in each precinct. The rule requires the hand count to take place the night of the November election or the next day. But dozens of election officials said that would be physically impossible in all but the smallest counties. Many also said in public comments Friday that it was far too late in the year to adopt new procedures for which their staffs have not been trained and for which they have no money. And they know this. The Trump camp knows this. What they're trying to do is create uncertainty, is to create chaos, is to sow division, is to break down confidence in our democratic processes. Military ballots have already been issued, said Ethan Compton, election supervisor in southern Georgia's Irwin County. The election has begun. This is not the time to change the rules that will only lower the integrity of our elections, unquote. The hand count requirement was one of 11 rules expected to be up for a vote on Friday. The latest batch the state election board has considered in recent weeks in an effort, proponents say, to make state elections more secure and transparent. The flurry is the work of a new right-wing majority that took control of the board in May with an avowed mission of preventing fraud and other irregularities from tainting the presidential results this year. That is all talk. That is nothing but nonsense because we know what the outcome of this will be. I'm calling it now. This is going to cause contention. This is going to cast doubt, and MAGA world is going to run away with every little thing that happens. You see, when nothing takes place. Nothing took place in 2020, and they still ran around all over the country acting as though there was a conspiracy afoot. Rudy Giuliani was disbarred for his efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. And in Georgia, he was thick as thieves with these same assholes who are attempting to overthrow our democracy in real time. Last paragraph here. All three of these on the majority of the election board are supporters of former President Donald Trump. And the rules they are pushing have been promoted by the state's leading proponents of the false claim that Joe Biden stole the Georgia election in 2020. It cannot be more clear what they're doing. It doesn't take a brilliant analysis of our current political situation to have called this. It doesn't take a psychic. You don't have to be some kind of a master prognosticator to know what they're doing here. This is one of many movements across the country. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada. They are going to be doing this en masse on individual basis, both in precincts, but also at the state level to try to overturn the election, or at the very least, give Donald Trump as much of an advantage as he can, even if that advantage is to gum up the works and slow the results from coming in. Because if they can, it's in question, we don't know, if they can delay this thing like they did last time, try to get it to January 6th when the vote is certified, then we may have another insurrection on our hands. This is what they're doing. Not just me, but many in my position have been calling this for months, and now we're witnessing it take place. This is anti-democracy. And the fact that Donald Trump has his hand-picked fascist court in the Supreme Court, who knows if this ends up going to the Supreme Court. It is up to us to get to the polls. It is up to you to get as many people to go vote in this election to make the margin of victory overwhelming, so they have nothing to say about the matter. So it cannot end up at the Supreme Court. Anyway, I'd love your opinion on this. I invite you to this conversation. We can talk about it in the comments. That'll help YouTube to share this content with a new batch of possible viewers who may be into it. Look, I know I'm not for everybody, but there's a fair amount of folks out there who appreciate what I do or the way that I do it. I'm sure a lot more people appreciate what I do. It's just the how I do it that pisses people off. Anyway, I invite you to the comments. You can also leave me a voicemail, 714-576-4054. And of course, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Be genuine. Take care of one another.